Hi, welcome to Inclusion Fusion 2012. I'm Rebecca Hamilton, and I'm Director of Operations with Key Ministry here in Cleveland, Ohio. And I'm so glad you tuned in today. We're talking on the general topic of respite today and providing respite care for kids with special needs and their siblings. And this is a great topic to address during Inclusion Fusion. And we're also addressing it on a sort of a grander level with the free respite movement that we're organizing, which is just mobilizing Christian churches all across the United States to provide really high quality respite care for families who have kids with special needs and their siblings. And if you'd like more information about joining the free respite movement, you can do that on our website, which is www.keyministry.org. And we would love to hear questions or comments that you have. Specifically, what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes is how to recruit volunteers and roles of volunteers that you'll need in providing a respite event for your community. There's really the great thing about a respite event is there's really something for everyone. You think of that event and you think, oh, there are people who play with kids. That's an important part of it. But there's so many other things, behind the scenes things or other issues that need to be addressed that really every type of person, every people group can really help in a meaningful way with. So think about all the different groups of people who you could address in trying to recruit volunteers for your event. Think about senior citizens. Think about the small group structure within your church and how you might be able to mobilize that. Think about teens. Some of the teens and youth in your church can be your most valuable resource because when you really carefully choose who will be able to volunteer and explain to them how important this is in God's kingdom, they really rise to the occasion. They enjoy it and they love doing it, and they're really, really great at it. There are people that you think of not being asked often to volunteer in the church setting. Doctors and nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists. They don't always get asked within the church setting to volunteer in what is their professional role, and we feel this is a great place that we're able to do that. Engineers, for instance, have such great analytical minds, and there are ways that they can be used in this process to talk about logistics and how things will work and organizing things behind the scenes. All types of administrative type minds. Every spiritual gift can be used in the respite program, and that's really a great way to see the body of Christ come together and use all of its respective strengths together. Think about if you have schools or colleges, universities that are located within your community. A lot of colleges have schools of education and especially schools of special education. A lot of those people in those college programs could love to have some hands-on, meaningful experience working with kids with special needs and would be a resume builder for them as well. So think about those as prospective sources of volunteers. Also look in your professional organizations like the Down Syndrome Association and places like that. There are some people who volunteer for them who would also love to volunteer within the church setting as well. So we need lots of volunteers at a respite event because our ratio of volunteer to guest is 1-to-1. And so we have to be upfront and honest when we're recruiting people and tell them this is a fun, really fun-filled, great event. You just meet up with a kiddo, you play for a few hours, their parents pick them up, and you've done a great service. But sometimes people are afraid of the unknown, so we have to make sure that they're not thinking it's much bigger deal than it really is, and just reassure them that it's just a fun party. It's not like a medical triage unit, and it doesn't have to be frightening to people. You can also announce within your own congregation that you need volunteers for this program. So things like bulletin announcements or announcements from the stage or from the pulpit are important ways of recruiting as well. Many kids in your youth group through their high school or even middle school programs sometimes now require or recommend service hours for kids, and this is a great way to do it. You can offer to sign their community service hour sheets and give them a really meaningful experience when they are volunteering with the kids at Respite. So those are a great source to tap as well. Sometimes smaller churches tell us that they don't feel like they can really have a respite event with just them because they don't have enough volunteers to support it. But we've also heard great success stories about churches who partner, particularly smaller ones that partner and do respite events together. They can either alternate sites between the two churches or hold it at a neutral site that is not the church at all, like a local community center or a local elementary school. So there are ways to be creative in doing it, even if you don't feel like you have the volunteer base to pull it off yourself. Even as I mentioned, if you don't particularly love spending time with kids, there are still lots of things that you can do at a respite event. There are behind the scenes people, and there are ways that you can help in all kinds of different roles. We'll dive into those in just a second. Another important way to market your volunteer opportunities is through your social networks. A lot of Facebook, Twitter, those kinds of things are important ways, particularly to meet and find teens who are looking for ways to connect and do volunteer work in the community. So be aware of that. You might want to have a Facebook group or event for your respite event on Facebook, and that's a great way to get volunteers. Recruit to meet your guests' needs. When you have a child who might be more medically involved or have a more severe disability, you want to make sure that you've recruited volunteers accordingly. So when people sign up to attend the respite event, there will be some detailed information on there, and you can find all of that on the Key Ministry website. keyministry.org, that has the information that a parent would be asked to fill out when they register their child for a free respite event. And all of that information should go to the medical team of volunteers that you have at your respite event, just so they're up to speed with any kinds of medical issues that might be going on that evening. And having all the information available to them really helps to answer any questions in advance that might be asked. We talked briefly about the volunteer roles, and there's really something for every type of person. We need a welcome team, which is just the people who are at the front entrance when people arrive. They welcome people, they greet them. There's a registration team that is just inside the door and matches up the guest that's attending with the buddy who's been matched with them. There's the buddy himself, who is really the person who gets to run around one-on-one and have a great time with the kids who come. There's the safety team, which some places call security. So security or safety is the same. And they really watch the exits. They make sure that the kids stay where they're supposed to be. They're floating around as volunteers, additional volunteers, just in case they are needed as an extra pair of hands. There are people who serve food and refreshments at respite events, so they might go out in advance, purchase it, bring it to the church, set it up, and clean up for the kids and adults who are there. There are photographers. When I talked about there being a misconception that it might be difficult to volunteer for respite, photographing the event and showing it during Sunday worship is a great way to show people that it's a really fun way to volunteer. The only exception there is just to make sure that every child has a photo release form on file, and to make sure that we really preserve and protect the privacy of each of our guests. You can find a sample photo request form on our website under the resource section, and you can always call us or email us for additional information about that. We mentioned before the medical team of doctors, nurses, EMTs, those kinds of people, along with speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists. There's really a place for all of those types to be in the respite team. So there's really something for everyone. And if you have any questions about recruiting volunteers or about their roles at Respite, give us a call anytime. We love getting your questions. We love brainstorming them among ourselves and calling you and emailing you and sharing ideas. So we can learn from you, and we hope that you'll stay in touch with us. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye.